What's up guys, and welcome back to the Kamui Dimension. You guys know what's up, it's that time of month again. Boruto chapter 68 is here, and man do we have a lot to talk about, so for those of you who are new to the channel, glad to have you here. Please consider subscribing and liking the video if you enjoy the content. So now let's get into the chapter. This was a juicy one, and right off the bat here, I will tell you guys that I really liked this chapter. So let's start with what stood out to me the most, and then we'll come back to the other events that happened in this chapter. Firstly, we need to celebrate, guys. Shikamaru got his brain back. That's right, after like 25 chapters of being brain dead, Shikamaru actually came up with a plan and showed that he was smart. Even Amado, Code, and Eida didn't pick up on what Shikamaru was thinking.
It's about damn time!
This gave me Naruto vibes like the Kashinkochi vs Jougan battle did, with the move behind the move and the plan behind the plan. That's the Shikamaru we know. Shikamaru gave this man Code one of Kakashi's first lessons to Naruto. A ninja must see through deception. I honestly was just so confused and annoyed that Shikamaru somehow didn't notice this freaking belt thing on his neck and that Code was going to surprise him when I read the spoilers, but I was more than happy to find out that Shikamaru did notice it was purposefully trying to lure Code out when he was alone with Amado. Secondly, I liked the dynamic between Eida and Code. Now, we could already tell that a split between them was coming, but Eida pretty much just told Code that she's gonna betray him in the future, because she warns Code that even after his limiters are removed, if Eida determines that Code is still useless, incompetent, or simply just a hindrance, that she and Damon have absolutely no qualms about disposing of him. And I think Code is probably expecting this to come to pass in the future based on his response of, "You mean we're not even comrades? How sad." And how Code already knew that Eida didn't trust him enough to share Damon's weaknesses in chapter 59, so we really shouldn't be surprised for Eida to betray him in the future. But we'll talk more about that in another video coming very soon. But I like how we're getting more build up to Eida being a bigger, more important character, which is definitely needed if the theory I talked about in my last video turns out to be true, which was about Eida controlling Sasuke and Boruto killing Sasuke as a result of this. I'll leave a link in the comments below for those of you who haven't seen that video yet. Now, something to note about this is that Eida mentions sending Damon to dispose of Code in chapter 67, and she says, "we siblings" here in chapter 68, which tells me that it's really more so that Damon would be the one to take down Code, and Eida might not have been lying when she told Code not to count on her combat abilities in chapter 59, as she is consistently referring to Damon or her and Damon together to dispose of Code. But like I said, we'll discuss this more in another video in the near future. Thirdly, what was awesome to see was Shikamaru confronting Amado and questioning him about his true motives, and Kishimoto is just teasing us because before Amado is forced to answer Shikamaru, Code appears and interrupts the conversation, so we're just getting more build up to Amado's end goal, which I will be discussing in a future video as well. And during the time Code is busy causing a ruckus, we finally get the reveal of Amado's Cyborg, which they've been holding off on for about 8 months, and it was so nice to finally see who was in the pod, and it ended up being Delta just like I predicted. Now, what's interesting to note here is that Delta appears to be like commanded by Shikamaru, whereas previously in Kara, she seemed to kind of just do her own thing and of her own free will. So I do want to see more from this Delta's personality to know if she's just meant to be an ally, but she's still for the most part the same Delta we know in personality, and she thinks for herself and does for herself, or if she just does whatever she's told and that's it. I hope it's the former and not the latter though. And what's interesting here is that it seems like the anime was also building up to this brief encounter of Delta versus Code with all their bickering at the Kara hideout, so I do hope we actually can see more of an actual battle between these two characters. Fourthly, what stood out was Eida finally directly getting involved in the action. Now, I'm kind of thinking that her plan might be to somehow force Amado to lift Code's limiters, as it seemed that she wants Code's limiters removed so that he can help her more effectively. But it is also kind of weird that she just walked right through like she was planning this, as when Code pulled Damon through, she was completely pissed about it, and this time he pulled her through without warning, but it looks like she was in on it this time. Maybe she just figured she was going to have to help out from watching the scene and seeing the situation Code was in. Regardless though, Amado looked absolutely shocked to see Eida, and he calls her by her name to finish off the chapter. And Amado probably never imagined that Boro didn't actually kill her, I guess, which is kind of surprising because I feel like Amado of all people should have considered the possibility of Boro not killing Eida and Damon, but either way, he's shocked and he looks pretty concerned because of those sweat beads on his forehead and cheek. So those were the big things this chapter, but we also got some other developments. We start the chapter off with Amado confirming that Momoshiki appears to have told the truth, but brings up that Momoshiki can still take over Boruto's body, which makes me still think that Momoshiki is gonna have some backup plan to bring himself back at some point. At least I hope he comes up with something, some sort of an idea, because I'd like him to continue being a threat, as he's the only Sasuke in the story right now. We then have Boruto claim that he doesn't need Amado's pills anymore, and he thinks he can control Momoshiki's power better than before, which probably means that the Karma version 2 form we saw Boruto use against Code with the Byakugan, where Boruto was in control, but without the horn, that's probably gonna be a form Boruto can access on his own from now on, but the horn, Borushiki form, probably not quite yet. We then see Naruto, Shikamaru, and Sumire talking about Kawaki, and we see that Shikamaru wants to make sure Amado does not get near Kawaki anytime soon, which is a pretty smart decision based on what's happened. And Naruto has a pretty stern and pained look on his face towards Kawaki, which Sumire notices and asks Shikamaru about. And I do like this about Sumire, she seems to be very observant. We then find out that Sasuke has gained intel on Code's whereabouts at Boruto's hideout, which I'm guessing Sasuke must have some underground network going on, kind of like Jiraiya did, because there's no way that Sasuke went all the way to the Land of Snow and found that place, and then came back to the Leaf Village all in one night, because he doesn't have his Rinnegan to do space-time ninjutsu anymore. And in the last several chapters have all occurred in only one night, so I don't see how it's possible otherwise. But either way, Sasuke knows about Bug and what's gone on at the hideout, behind Jigen's back, which I found interesting how they keep adding more and more to Boruto's character after he's died. Like, the manga had nothing for him while he was alive, but since he died, they've been adding more and more. I also liked Sasuke giving that little side-eye expression when he was talking to Shikamaru, because if you'll recall, Sasuke gave that exact same look back in chapter 55 when Kawaki told Boruto that he would get rid of Boruto's Karma Seal no matter what it takes. So I think Sasuke is not surprised at all by this, and he was already pretty wary of Kawaki. I feel like he might even see himself in Kawaki, to be honest. He's kind of seeing like, this kid's like I used to be. Then we get to the whole Eida and Code conversation, where she threatens him, and we begin the Shikamaru and Amado conversation. Afterwards, we then see Sarada and Mitsuki talking to Boruto, and we just see how Mitsuki knows Boruto is full of shit, because he's just too smart and observant, and so he asks him why Code would kill Boruto if he wants to feed him alive to the Ten Tails, and Boruto just pulls an excuse out of his ass, and Sarada changes the subject. I do think that Mitsuki is probably gonna figure out that Kawaki was the one who almost killed Boruto though, because he noticed how Boruto was hiding the Karma Seal on his hand in the past, and how Boruto was bothered by having stabbed Sasuke's Rinnegan, and how he put the pieces together of what Boro was saying, and how Boruto was taken over by Momoshiki, and how he was ready when Kawaki attacked him in chapter 58, and so on. Mitsuki is just too smart and observant, and realistically, he emulates Sasuke the most out of anyone else in Team 7, if we're being honest, even though he trains with him the least. Then Sasuke appears and tells Boruto that he needs to not go anywhere alone anymore, and that he suspects Code will be after Amado. Now, I originally thought Sasuke would be ready for this sooner, so that pretty soon after Code appeared, Sasuke would then appear and be like, I figured you'd come here for Amado. But it looks like Shikamaru took that role instead, but we still might see Sasuke show up soon, as he and Boruto literally talked about how Code will be after Amado. So I do hope to see Sasuke head over to Amado's lab in the next chapter or so, and find himself face to face with Code and Eida, which then could lead to the topic I discussed in my last video. Then we cut back to the Shikamaru and Amado conversation, and Code pulls up through the claw mark and threatens Amado, where Amado is confused how Code knew how Amado releases the limiters. Then Delta appears, and then Eida is pulled through the claw mark, and that's where the chapter ends off. The last thing I want to talk about is the artwork in this chapter. I don't know if it's just me, but artistically, I think this is probably one of Ikimoto's best chapters yet. Like, almost every character just looked like it was drawn better this chapter. For example, Code looked really amazing this chapter. Like, I think Ikimoto just really nailed it with Code. And same with Amado. The emotions we see from Amado at the end of the chapter were very expressive. The only exception is Shikamaru. He still only draws the same two faces for him. But Ikimoto did some of his best work this month, and I do hope that we could see this moving forward every single chapter. And I also thought that he made better use of his pages, so the chapter felt longer to me than a typical Boruto chapter does. I'm not even exaggerating when I say most weekly Naruto chapters feel longer to me than most monthly Boruto chapters, even though the Boruto chapters have more pages. It just comes down to how those pages are actually used. and I think we saw some improvements from Ikimoto here, so hats off to him. I hope he continues to keep this up. Overall though, I thought this was a pretty great chapter by Boruto standards. The expressions and designs looked better, the paneling looked better, we finally paid off Amado's Cyborg, we got a little teaser about Amado's motives, we got some more build up for Eida as a character and his split with Code, we saw more from Sasuke finally and what he's been up to, and we got the invasion of Code and Eida in the Leaf Village. We've been building up to a lot of this stuff, so it was really nice to see some of it paid off and some of it in action right now. So for Boruto standards, this was probably a solid 8 or 9 out of 10 for me. This was one of the better chapters in my opinion. But I really want to hear from you guys. What stood out to you the most this chapter, and how would you rate this chapter out of 10 by Boruto standards? Did you guys like it as much as I did, or did you dislike it for any reasons? Let me know in the comment section below, and let me know what theories you guys have moving forward in the story. For those of you who made it this far, thank you so much for the support, but I do have to remind you that
you're already under my genjutsu.
So subscribe, leave a comment, like the video, and hit that bell icon for notifications. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye!